Good evening, everyone. Just a wee reminder that we are now live streaming the meeting. We'll just start in a wee minute or so. So for tonight's meeting, Councillor Hume is going to take over the chair. Thanks, Councillor Hume, for stepping in at the last minute. Obviously, Councillor Burgess normally chairs the meeting, but has been unable to attend tonight. So, Councillor Hume, if you want to just take over. I'm not quite sure what's happening. Councillor Hume, are you hearing us? Are you okay to take us through the agenda?
Yes, yes, okay. Everyone ready for an exciting evening then?
And Councillor, if there's obviously you're stepping in at the last minute, so just feel free to pass over, ask myself or Gary Stark, who's on the call, if you're not sure about who's picking up on what elements of the agenda. Thank you.
That's fine, Leanne. I've been doing it for years. I've still been relying on you and Gary, so thanks for that anyway. Right, everyone, welcome. The first item on the agenda is right, okay, thanks, Gary. The welcome and introduction. So I've welcomed everyone. Would you like to go around everyone and introduce yourselves so everyone knows who's involved?
Councillor, what we normally do is just ask everybody to put their details on the chat bar, and it saves us going round everybody, which can take up quite a lot of time. But
well, I don't think there are too many here. Why don't people just tell us who they are? Yeah. So Leanne doesn't want you to say a lot about yourself, so just give us your name and your organisation and your interest in being here tonight.
To help them out then, Miller.
Wait, I'll bring out the participants and
Hi, that's easy.
Then. Right, Leanne, does everyone know you? Yes.
I always assume so, but maybe I should introduce myself just in case, Councillor.
There's some new faces for me tonight, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, no bother. So my name's Leanne Pollock. I'm Community Partnership Manager and I cover the south area of North Lanarkshire.
Okay. Daniel Scott. You mute, Daniel, or do you?
I'm trying to get my video working. There we go. Can you see me now?
Yes.
I'm Dan Scott. I'm from Social Track.
Right, thank you. Fiona.
Hi, I'm Fiona Fotheringham, one of the local councillors for Wishaw, Ward 21.
Gary Stark.
Hi everybody, Gary Stark here. I'm the Assistant Community Partnership Manager for Wishaw and Shotts.
Okay, Jacqueline McLachlan.
Hi, I'm from Who Cares Scotland, and we provide advocacy for children and young people in North Lanarkshire.
Okay, I'm just Leanne. I'm just aware that I'm not fully aware what all these organisations do. How will we get an update on, apart from them being here tonight, a bit more information about the organisation? Do you have that?
Well, what we can do is if any organisations wanted to, under Community Matters, just briefly talk a wee bit or give any updates about what their organisation have been doing, they could do that under Community Matters, or if they felt more appropriate, we could certainly circulate information following tonight's meeting. But if anybody wants to update on any specific piece of work that they're doing or anything, I think that would be appropriate under Community Matters, Councillor, but certainly happy to circulate information following tonight's meeting.
Okay, everyone, you have a choice if you want to say anything tonight, or just forward our information about your organisation and what you're up to recently. Jane Wood, NCT.
Hi, I'm Jane Wood. I'm the Centre Manager of New Mains Community Trust NCT Centre.
Okay, Julia.
Hi there, I'm here representing Claire Adamson MSP. I'm one of our constituency assistants.
Okay, welcome. Karen Mitchell.
Hi there, I'm Karen Mitchell. I'm here as Treasurer of New Mains Community Council.
Okay. Margot Young.
Hi, I'm Margot Young and I'm the Treasurer for Cleland Community Council.
Okay. Mark Kay, NHS.
You mute, Mark.
You there, yeah. Couldn't hear you there. Right? Yes, now we can.
I was just trying to get my camera to work there and it's coming on. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Right, hi there. So I'm Mark Kay, NHS Health Improvement. Previously Health Improvement Senior for Wishaw and Shotts, so covering it whilst I'm in a new post until the new Health Improvement Senior comes in post in the upcoming weeks. So I'm currently the Senior Health Promotion Officer for Children and Young People. It's a remit for North Lanarkshire as a whole anyway, so it's still appropriate for me to be attending.
Okay, good, thanks. Maureen Fife.
Hi, I haven't put my camera on because my internet's a bit iffy tonight and I'm taking the notes and I don't want to lose you all, so I'm just going to leave it off if that's all right. I'm Maureen Fife and I'm Assistant Community Partnership Officer at North Lanarkshire Council.
Thanks, Maureen.
No
Mary Sutty.
Hi, I'm a resident in Coltness. I'm on the work laptop and unfortunately it doesn't allow the camera to operate.
Okay, thanks. Richard Bolton. You're on mute, Richard. Are you having trouble getting in?
Hi, sorry about that. I was on mute. Yeah, I'm a Community Development Officer for Garion People's Housing Cooperative working in Gowthrapple.
Everyone hear me? Richard McInnes.
Hi there, I'm Richard McInnes. I'm a Watch Commander with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service.
Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
Robert McKendrick.
I am Robert McKendrick, Councillor for Murderson Ward 20.
Hi, Robert. Roberta Hutton.
That's me. Hi, I'm Roberta Hutton. I'm Session Clerk at Wishaw, Craigneuk and Belhaven Church, and I represent the Wishaw churches together.
All right, okay. Stephen.
Thanks, Chair. I'm Stephen Penman. I'm the Head of Communications for North Lanarkshire Council. I'm here. James McKinstry sends his apologies tonight, Chair. He's got an unavoidable commitment elsewhere. So I'm here on substituting for James.
Right. James sets a high standard for you to follow then, Stephen. So
I'm glad to hear it.
Need to raise your game a bit. Stuart.
Hi, I'm Stuart Chidley, representing Overton and Waterloo Community Council.
Right, I just have the next one, the Venny. Who's here representing them?
Hi there, that's me. I'm Ian White. I'm the manager at Glencastle's Community Development Project, also known as the Venny, down in Craigneuk.
Right, Ian White, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And Van L. Ian Johnson.
There you go, got it one. Ian Johnston from Van L. I am the Community Concordat Coordinator. I still struggle to say that every single time, but there you go, I'm here tonight.
Right, welcome. That's Richard Bolton, are you back on now, or you managed to sign in? Right, we'll just need to catch up with Richard later if he gets in. Have I missed anyone that's joined after I started?
Hi, Jim, you missed me. Councillor McManus, Murderson Wards.
Wasn't deliberate, Cammy, okay. You must have joined after I got past your name on the participant list. Right, okay, welcome everyone.
Sorry, just to interrupt as well. I'm Jim Looter. I am from Police Scotland. I'm representing Alan Mulholland, who can't make it tonight. Last minute substitute.
Yeah, as they do. Who needs officers? Right.
And I'm sorry, hopefully I'm back on. It's Richard Bolton. I'm Community Development Officer for Garrion People's Housing Cooperative in Gowthrapple.
Right. Okay, Richard. Right. Okay. Apologies. Who's dealing with that?
Hi, Chair. There's only one additional apology, and it's from Robert Owen from the CLD team.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Gary. Minutes of the previous meeting. Has everyone had a chance to go over them?
Yep.
Any comments or matters arising about the minutes? Okay.
Sorry, Chair. I think there were two matters arising. One of which, just let me get my notes back up. Apologies. One of them was in relation to a request for further information around the Wishaw Town Hub, and there is we've had some feedback to say that there isn't any further update at this time. The application for funding is scheduled to be submitted later this year to Scottish Government in relation to Town and Community Hub programme, and further information will be available to the Community Board as further kind of feedback on that becomes available, and when there is a more kind of concrete proposal to share with the Community Board.
Okay. Any even rough timescales for that, Leanne?
We can certainly go back and ask for further updates and timescales in relation to that. And the other, there was an update requested in relation to Pather Cemetery and some concerns that had been raised around that in relation to groundwater. So the kind of feedback that we've received, which I'll probably pretty much just kind of read out to you, is that the design works are progressing well and they're currently in the process of completing a detailed exercise with the civil engineers with the intention of establishing the most efficient ratio of 5 feet and 8 feet deep layers that can be accommodated in the site, taking into account the existing groundwater levels and available excavated soil that can be utilised, all without bringing new soil onto the site. And unfortunately, that is quite a complex exercise with many possible options to consider, but they do hope to have that concluded soon to enable the final detailed design works to be completed. So it sounds like they are aware of some of the issues that have been highlighted around the groundwater, and it has been incorporated into the work before they get to the design stage.
Okay, thank you. I know there's been a fair bit of progress in that and working the roads and the bridge, the railway bridge and things like that. So it's definitely progressing, but if we could get kept up to date with that, that'd be good. And the same with the Wishaw Town Hub analysis, Leanne, if you could let them know that the Community Board's very interested in progress they're being made, and make sure we're kept up to date with that as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, anyone get any other matters for the minutes? Okay, can I have a proposer and seconder to approve the minutes? From someone that was there, preferably. Don't be shy, put your hand up. I can. Right, Fiona's proposing them, and seconder. Robert McKendrick's
I wasn't there, but I can second them if it needs to be.
No, Robert seconded them. That's fine, thanks. So that's that. Next item is the Community Matters section, and we're asking for input from local community groups. Is that a formal thing they need to notify you of in advance, Leanne, or is it just people are able to bring things up at the meeting?
So, Chair, we would encourage groups to let us know in advance, just so that we can programme it into the agenda where possible, and it lets us know how much time there is to cover. But if people have got things that they want to raise on the night, then they're more than welcome to do that.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, let's go ahead and take any issues that anyone wants to raise tonight, information or questions or anything else from local community groups.
I think we had a specific request on the agenda, Chair. Sorry if you don't mind me coming in for social track who wanted to raise to maybe have some input to the agenda at that point.
Yeah, that was the next point after the.
Apologies.
I know it was there. So no, keep it right, Leanne.
And the only other thing was to say that our police representative tonight, because he's standing in for Mr Mulholland, he is kind of on call and operational tonight, so he might want to say something under community matters if he's getting specific that we'd want to highlight. We've been requested, we've had a request that he can come in kind of early-ish in the agenda, so maybe after the community groups.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely fine. And we'll ask other people first before we go to the social track. Otherwise, I'll get confused. Anyone from the local organisations like to bring anything up? As I say, information or notification or questions or anything. I see a hand there, Karen.
Yeah, I was just actually wondering, with New Means Community Council, we've put in a few funding bids, and it was really just to find out if we can get any update on them, how any of them are progressing.
Is that through the community board formally, Karen, or is it just
Yeah,
other mechanisms? Right. Okay.
no, it's through the community boards. Yeah.
Right.
Chair, I can come in and respond to that if it's the same proposals I'm thinking of. I think they were applications through local development programme, and as far as I understand, they were submitted following the last community board meeting. I think there needs to be, I think that the next step for us before it would, so what we normally do is when we receive proposals, we would then do a wee bit of work to engage with the community group or the person who'd submitted that to look a wee bit about kind of feasibility and look at if there's any kind of gaps in the application that we would need in order to be able to progress. I think with the situation with the New Mains was that there was obviously a number of quite large scale projects put forward, and the next stage is that Gary and the team probably need to meet up with yourselves and other representatives to almost kind of go through a bit of a kind of prioritisation exercise to look at how we would be able to programme them in over the next kind of few years, because obviously the budget for the area is to cover the whole of the kind of Wishaw area, and obviously our team can work with you to prioritise and to look at where we can maybe bring in additional match funding to realise some of the projects, but it does require a wee bit further work before we would be able to bring it to the community board for kind of approval. So we would just be saying that we'll make contact with you very soon following tonight's meeting, and the team will meet with you and go through that process just to make sure we've got all the right information and to look at how we kind of take things forward and maybe do a bit of prioritisation. It's not to say that we can't programme something like quite a few of the projects in, it's just that obviously we would need to look at the feasibility and what we could deliver first and what we can deliver within this kind of programme of local development programme, which covers obviously a number of years, but still we need to prioritise within that.
Yeah, I understand that. It was really just obviously we'd put the forms in, and we haven't really heard anything back, to say anything. So, yeah, that'd be good to get a wee meeting confirmed just to progress it and see where we're at, because I know the forms were quite basic.
Yeah.
And what we were actually proposing. So need.
Yeah.
No, that's fine, and I think it's just
the
team have just the team have just been kind of working through the different kind of proposals, but we'll make a point. Gary's obviously on the call tonight, so Gary will make sure that himself and someone else from the team make contact with you to sit and kind of go through that and look at what needs to happen as the next steps. Is that okay, Gary?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks very much.
When did you submit those forms, Karen?
I think it might have been about November.
November.
All right. Well,
maybe after that.
Is this a standard procedure for everyone, Leanne? That everyone follows to get? That seems to be well, you know, a fairly long time. Is that typical timescales or?
Yeah, no, that is longer than I would have expected. So I'll look into that. I thought it was just around about the last community board meeting earlier this year that they had been submitted, and there has been, just due to the kind of year end and trying to get projects finalised, there has been a bit of a backlog of working through some of the proposals. So I'll look into that and check the exact dates, because we probably should have made contact with you since then. So. Before now, so I'll pick that up and we'll make sure somebody makes contact with you ASAP.
And since that's a standard procedure now, is everyone aware of it? Is the information available to be requested, or have you sent it out to people, Leanne, or what's the position?
Yeah, so there's an overview in the report that comes to all the community board meetings of the process. We did introduce the proposal form, that was last year, and that was really to kind of tighten up the process, because what was happening previously was when projects were coming to the community board, they were getting added on without really any kind of feasibility or any work to really understand whether they were a possibility. You know, very basic things like, is it council land, is it, and sometimes things were getting added, and then there was a kind of expectation around looking for feedback on projects when actually we hadn't got to doing feasibility. So what we've started to do is we've asked anybody who's submitting any ideas to complete a basic form that kind of outlines community support, what's the project kind of aiming to achieve, etc. And we then will work with that community group or organisation from there on to kind of work up the proposal, so that, you know, it doesn't, if it's something that's absolutely not going to go ahead because, you know, the ground conditions, or there just isn't budget available, that we're not approving it. You know, we're waiting until we've got a wee bit of feasibility work and a bit more detail before we're actually approving the project. But what should happen is they should be featured on the LDP report as proposals that have been put forward, but there's clearly that's not happened on this occasion. So I will make sure that they're added to the LDP report as proposals, and we will make contact with you as soon as possible to make sure that we start to kind of progress in terms of looking at least the kind of feasibility and prioritisation work, so that we should be able to provide a bit of an update at the next meeting.
Okay, if anyone needs an update, on the process, should they contact you or Gary?
They can contact either of us, but probably Gary's better placed than me. Poor Gary, I'm just pandering around, but Gary probably is more involved on a day-to-day basis. But feel free to make contact with either of us.
So if any group needs that information, just send an email to Leanne and Gary, and they'll give you the relevant information. Jacqueline McLachlan had their hand up.
Yeah. Hi. It was just to see if now's the best time for me just to explain a little bit about Who Cares Scotland and what we provide. Just because I'm aware I wasn't able to attend the last one, so I'm not sure if one of my colleagues did or not, to explain, just to kind of give a bit of an update on what we do.
Yes, that'd be fine. On you go.
Cool. Okay, so we provide advocacy for children and young people within the whole of North Lanarkshire. We have quite a wide remit, so I have colleagues all over Scotland, but in the North Lanarkshire team we have a remit to work with those children and young people who are care experienced, who have mental health diagnoses, who are under the Mental Health Act, and also those children and young people who have additional support needs as well. So they don't need to have any social work involvement, but a diagnosis of an additional support need, so we can come in and provide advocacy, which advocacy, for those of you that might not know what that is, it's mainly for us to be there to work with the children and young people who are going through processes, whether that be educational processes, social work processes, and we're there to support them to have their voice heard, and to make sure that their rights, their children's rights, are being upheld as well. So we do a lot of work, like I said, all through North Lanarkshire as well, but we also run groups for those that are care experienced. And the ages range from, so they start at 8 years old, right up until they're 26. So there's different groups that we run. It's arts and crafts groups and kind of just drop-in clubs. So our office is based in the Bells Hill area, but those young people that live in Wishaw can come to it. We provide transport, or they can get dropped off and picked up. But our main focus of work in Lanarkshire as a whole is the advocacy side of it, and our website is the best place I can direct you for further information, but it's also the place to make a referral. So anybody can refer a young person for advocacy. They just have to have that young person's consent. So they have to have a chat with them, but there's various tools that I can give out that help explain it and explain exactly what it is. But the website is the best place for the further information. Plus it has all of our contact details on it as well if you want further chats or that. And also you can send me a message on this tonight and I'll provide my email address if anybody's got anything additional. But it was just to kind of explain a little bit, mainly about why I'm here, just to come over and explain that. And yeah.
Are you a charity, a formal charity, or are you associated with a national organisation or whatever?
We are a formal charity, we're independent. So although we receive referrals through social work and that, we're not linked with that. We're completely independent.
Okay. Could you stick the link to the site address in the chat bar, please?
I will do, yeah.
And then anyone that wants that could take a note of it. Okay. I don't see any other hands, but does anyone else have any comments to make? Oh, sorry, Stuart, on you go.
Yeah, it was just a quick one, really. We're getting a lot of community feedback about some destructive behaviour and empty property in Overton and Waterloo. So in Overton on the Castle Hill Road, the old farm, Weems Hill Farm. And I think we're still seeing a lot of people wandering around with spray cans.
Yeah, but so just that was raised at the community council, and I believe the police have been involved. Has anything happened since then? Has it got worse, or have the police visited? Or
I'm not sure if the police visited, but we went down there 2 weeks ago, I think, and there were kids on site, and there's glass everywhere. So I think it was requested to be fed into the planning department because the building needs to be secured whilst it's going through the planning commission.
Right. One of the councillors could certainly take that up if you want to send us. Sorry, Fiona's got her hand up. Do you have an update on that, Fiona?
I don't have an update, but I know that there was problems at the church before, and we raised that with Alan Mulholland, and they were going back down to reinvestigate it. So I haven't had an update. So I'm not sure if Jim's able to update or knows about it, or I can get back in touch with Alan and see if there's any progress.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind taking that as an action. Robert or Cammy, you had any dealings with this? No, I know it's not your ward, so perhaps not. Right, okay. Is that okay, Stuart, for Fiona to follow that up with the police? Yeah. Jacqueline, could you put your hand down, please? Just unless you've got something else to say. Right, okay, good. Jim from the police.
I don't really cover community policing, so I don't have full updates. However, some of the things that have been passed might answer some questions. See, just to confirm, Overton Farm, is that down the Barons Hall, kind of Clyde walkway down that way?
No, it's the Weems Hill Farm on the Castle Hill Road, so near the school.
Yeah. Right, okay. I'll certainly pass that back to Alan Mulholland and ask that he gets back in touch with you regarding that.
Yeah. I think a couple of people from Trowse Road raised that specifically, Stuart, didn't they? They're the closest to it, Jim. So if you need any information about who's raised this, either contact Stuart from the Community Council, or if you need information from individuals who have raised it, let me know and I'll give you their names, or for Alan anyway. Right.
Yeah, certainly I will do.
Okay. Any other hands or people wanting to speak about that? Okay. If that's everything, we can move on to the social track item then. Who's speaking about that? David, Daniel, you?
Aye, me.
Dan Scott.
Right.
Cheers, Jim. Sorry, cheers, Chair.
Yeah, we've been we've had a very successful year so far and very, very busy. And I just wanted to highlight some things to the community board and some of the stuff that we're doing in Wishaw and in the surrounding area. First off, from the Saturday the 18th, we are starting some traffic-free cycling sessions that are for all abilities. And that really is for beginners, and with a focus on, there is a focus on mental health with all of this. It's been funded with the Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund. We all know that physical activity is good, and also being out in a group trying to break isolation. So very much a post-COVID idea, and that's going to be starting at the Carrick Hall on the 18th of June. We're also doing some mountain biking things as well on the same day, earlier on in the day, for basically everyone as well. But we've had a lot of interest in both so far, and we're particularly keen to get just as many people as possible involved and just get them going. The other thing is that we have finally got a new home after us being forcefully evicted by Storm Arwen. We have actually moved into Centre Point in Gowcrapple. So our new offices are there. We are so busy with lots of our coaching work that we're not entirely sure what we're going to do with being at Centre Point in Gowcrapple yet. But yeah, we really need somewhere as offices, and we really needed somewhere to be hiring out our community bike library from. So hopefully that's possibly what's going to be happening from there. We've also been running mindfulness sessions, again with the Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund. We've got cycling coaches who are also qualified in mindfulness and delivering mindfulness sessions, and they've been really successful so far, and there's been a great deal of so just the feedback's been great actually on it. It's just it's been far more successful than we thought it was going to be. We weren't quite sure how it was going to go. Mindfulness is kind of a new concept, I guess, to the Western world, so it was interesting to see how that's going. But that's been really good, and you know, and specifically targeting mental wellness. The two other things that we're working on that we kind of like the community know. I have spoke with Stuart a few months ago about and Overton and Waterloo Community Council about working in Overton Skate Park, and I know that my colleague Neil has been speaking with Mark Kay, who's also in this meeting tonight, and there's definitely a push to have more activity. We had pilot before at Overton Skate Park, which was really successful, with over 100 young people and families involved. We're looking to do that again. That's moving on, and it looks likely that that will happen. The other thing that's quite exciting from that as well is the other thing that's quite exciting about that as well is that the local high school there has actually been in contact as well, and they would like us to be working with them for the upcoming year. So obviously not in the next 3 weeks, but starting in August. So again, that all comes together with that. Again, it's not just active travel, it's not just action sports that we're doing, it's not just BMX and skateboarding or mountain biking. It's more about the person. Those activities, pun intended, are just a vehicle for positive change in people's lives and in the community. Lots of people know about the Wishaw Hillwood Pump Track and Craignuke. We will have more programs starting there in the summer again. We'll have our 360 Club starting at the pump track again. You know, and Ian at the venue will be supporting us with that as well. And Fiona will be helping the kids get hot chocolates if it's raining, and it's Scotland, so it will be. And so yeah, it's been really good. The last 360 Club that we ran, we had 58 people at it. which was, you know, great for it to be so busy and so popular. And as much as it's in Craigneuk, and we've got this mix of things where Craigneuk's meant to be in the Motherwell Community Board, everybody there would consider themselves from Wishaw. So, you know, and there was a lot of people throughout Wishaw that were there. That's kind of all of our update, is that there's so much going on. We're going to be at Strathclyde Park for the whole summer. We're always looking for volunteers. We have a whole programme sitting ready to go to train up 12 volunteers this year. We have 6 people waiting to go on it. Probably got about another 10 waiting in the wings to go on this as well. And we're really hoping to get better capacity for us to be able to deliver in the future. So things are really, really positive. There's other things that we will be coming to the community boards later on. There is proposals that we'll be putting in with. There is things that the community has spoke to us about. There's stuff happening in Motherwell that we might deal with first and use that as a pilot, because there's already lots of partners involved, including the NHS, and there's some interest from the Scottish Government as well. So that's probably where we'll go first. But I think in the future we'll be looking to extend our skate parks in Overton. We'll be looking to improve what's at Belhaven Park. We'll be looking to make active traffic better and encouraging that. And that's the thing with the traffic-free routes. That was what the Community Council had asked, if we would actually put those sessions on, so that it could encourage people to actually use the Wishaw Low Road. As you know, it connects Coltness, Cleland. It connects those areas to the centre of Wishaw, and really, really easily. And it's, you know, it's got already a great green network to actually connecting Wishaw to major areas of you know, the schemes in Wishaw. And so yeah, we're pretty keen to get that going and encouraging people to be using those paths. That's kind of what we're up to at the moment. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Do you only cover Wishaw, Dan?
No, we even work in Girvan, and that place called South Lanarkshire. So we work all over. Yeah, we work all over. But our Sunday name is actually the ML2 Action Sports Group. So that's what we are in Company's House. And so we stuck our the flag to the mast when we named the company. I'm a Wishaw boy. I care a lot about Wishaw, and I care a lot about. I'm very aware of the poverty that there is in Wishaw, and in fact, I say I'm very aware. There's a lot of hidden poverty. Don't think you'd ever be able to see it all, but that's the whole point of the of Social Track, is to try and help people who are in poverty, and especially young people and families. You know, give them, it's a good old-fashioned digressionary youth work type stuff is what we do. So that's what our plan is, and to help that. And it's been really successful. We're in 11 schools at the moment, and so we work with over 150 young people a week. We add 360 Club into that, it goes into the 200s and 250s. It's hard work. My video isn't working, so you don't see me sighing when I say that. But yeah, it's we've came a long way, that's for sure.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Leanne, how much is the council able to support all these organisations in terms of assisting with advertising events and what they do and things like that? Do we offer specific assistance there?
Well, we can certainly, we now have the My Towns channels associated with the 9 community board areas. So we've got social media, we've got Facebook and Twitter. We've also got there's work underway, which Stephen Penman might talk about in a bit more detail. I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll bring more detail at a later date around looking at the kind of communication and engagement strategy for not just the council, but across the kind of community planning partnership, to see how we better share information. But at this point in time, there certainly are opportunities. You can come to our team at any time, and we can share through our mailing list for the community boards and our networks. We can share any information about events, or if community groups just want to promote themselves, we're happy to do that. We can then ask obviously partners to do the same, so you've got that extra kind of layer of networking, and as I say, we can certainly share things through the MyTown social media avenues. More than happy to do that where we can. We also my team specifically can work with groups in terms of looking along with Van Ale and other colleagues to look at kind of capacity building support for community groups and organisations, and that includes looking at enhancing the kind of funding that's available. So obviously we've got local development programme for capital projects. We also administer the council's community grants funding, etc. But there's also an opportunity for us to work with groups to look at additional funding that we can maybe lever in and supporting groups kind of through that process where appropriate. So absolutely, there's loads of things that we can do to support groups in terms of promoting themselves.
Right, clearly we don't know right now what everyone on the meeting and others are aware of. Do you think it'd be worthwhile having an agenda item at the next meeting for you to cover the support that the council is able to offer organisations?
We could certainly, I mean, if the community board felt that would be appropriate.
Already done it, by the way. It doesn't matter. Because I'm suggesting it doesn't make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, there's no issue with us saying this is the type of thing that our team does, and for other partners to do the same, because obviously we're not the only kind of partner that public sector agency, or Van Ale as well, who provides support. But happy to, maybe that's something we could work with our partners to come and kind of say, here's the different kind of support that's available to community groups and organisations for the next cycle of meetings. No problem with doing that.
Okay, have a think about it, and if the team think it's worthwhile, we can stick something in. Yes, Stephen, you wanted to come in.
Thanks, Stuart. Just to add to that, and Leanne kind of touched on this, I think we're in the, I suppose, the early stages of trying to develop the MyTown channels, both on social media and across all the partners, so that there is access on a much more localised basis for highlighting activities, highlighting promotion more locally. That is, as I say, we've really just kicked off that process with the partnership board level, and we're currently in meetings, or involved in meetings with all our partners at a community planning level to work out the best way to do that. As you can imagine, it's not. It sounds a simple thing, but it's probably not that simple a thing. So we're working through that just now. The intent would be to bring that back to community boards, if not in the next cycle, the cycle afterwards, to highlight, I suppose, more enhanced opportunities for people to get involved in localised promotion of activities.
Yeah, thanks. Perhaps we could have a formal presentation whenever that's ready, Stephen, so everyone's aware of how to use the MyTown thing. Who's got a hand up? Ian, I see your hand. Ian from Van.
I was just to kind of agree with what Leanne was saying. I think what you're doing would fit into several of our networks. I'll leave my contact details in the chat if you want to get in contact with that.
Okay, everyone got that? Just check the chat. You need to find out what Van Ale does and how they work to support the different groups in the area.
Perfect.
Thank you. No other hands. We're now going to Community Champions update. Who's doing that?
That's me, Chair. Thanks.
Yes, thanks. Right, okay. Stephen's standing in for James.
Standing in for James.
Who's the current community champion for this area?
Yeah. So just a couple of sort of localised developments in terms of specific to this community board, and then maybe some wider things that we think be of interest to the community board. In terms of Gaelic and the new housing development, or the housing developments going on there in terms of new supply, we've started on the site in terms of Castle Hill Road. That's 97 new homes under the council's new supply programme, and also phase one of the programme to demolish the low-rise blocks has commenced, and phase two of that is being prepared for contract award at present. So making some progress in that respect. Leanne has covered the Pather Cemetery update earlier on under matters arising. In terms of the New Main St Bridges Community Hub, those of you who have been past it or near it will have seen this progress, significant progress being made in that construction work. The anticipated handover is in January next year. So we're anticipating that's on schedule for that. Quite an amazing site, really, when you see it up close, and so that's ongoing. So that's a couple of the sort of local development type activities. There's also some items I think might be of interest to the board. As part of the COVID Memorial Programme, there's going to be a COVID-19 memorial in North Lanarkshire, which will be in Strathclyde Park. And the plan is to work with communities across North Lanarkshire, and we'll launch this over the summer period to co-create that memorial. So obviously we'll be working with people who have been most heavily affected by COVID-19 in that process. And as I say, that will be developed over the summer, and there will be ways in which people from communities can participate in co-creating that memorial, which will ultimately, as I say, be in Strathclyde Country Park for the whole of North Lanarkshire. In terms of, there's a new business startup fund in terms of enterprise. And I'll put the URL to the link for this in the chat bar. The Business Startup Grant Fund basically provides funding to help pre-startup businesses who have got a robust and viable business plan. And the idea is to help those businesses get trading quicker than they otherwise might be able to. It's for the funding's for essential business purchases, for example, for IT equipment, infrastructure costs, website design, and stock costs, and so on. There's a tiered funding structure to it. So there are grants of £1,000 and grants of £2,500. The £1,000 is for home-based enterprises with no full-time employees, in addition to the proprietor. But there's also a fund for slightly larger enterprises. So these are businesses that don't operate from home, that would operate from a commercial premises, and will have a minimum of one member of staff in addition to the proprietor of the business. So I will pop the link into the chat after I finish this update. And it's as I say, the application is through Business Gateway. So these are two brand new funds in that respect. In terms of the local youth forums, the 9 forums are developing well, with the new members of the Scottish Parliament all active and involved. The members of the Scottish Youth Parliament will be the lead host when the Scottish Youth Parliament sits in North Lanarkshire in July, which will be the first time that actually since pre-COVID times that the Youth Parliament sat in person rather than remotely. And in terms of also just related to Young Scot, the free transport is progressing very well. We've issued more than 14,000 cards in North Lanarkshire so far. Finally, I'll just touch very briefly on this. The council and partners are very heavily engaged in the resettlement service in terms of Ukraine, people fleeing the conflict in Ukraine. And people will be aware that there are 2 sort of separate schemes. One is Homes for Ukraine, and one is the Scottish Super Sponsor Scheme. People will know that North Lanarkshire's got a very long history of supporting people escaping conflict and various conflicts from around the world. So we're actively engaged in discussions with UK government, Scottish government, COSLA, and we will have contact with people who direct contact who will be arriving through these schemes. And offer all the supports that are required to make sure those resettlements are a success. There is an element of unpredictability, I have to say, about it, in terms of numbers, in terms of the shifting way that the conflict is happening in Ukraine, and so there's a lot of probably intensive support required for families in that respect. Finally, for me, in terms of an update, the council will be continuing its Club 365 programme over the summer. The Scottish Government have extended funding that they provided during the pandemic, or during the height of the pandemic, in terms of universal free school meal provision during summer holidays, and also an additional fund for additional activities during the summer. So we will continue to support and build on the success of Club 365 previously. In those respects, in terms of the people who are entitled to free school meal payments over the summer, those payments will be made, it's £2.50 per day, and it's an £80 total. And those payments will be made in the same way that we've made payments over holiday periods in the past. We'll continue to work with schools, and we'll publicise this through schools before they break up for the summer, but also continue to publicise that directly through people providing support in communities, and also on the council's channels. In terms of the additional funding, the additional summer programme funding, we've done quite a lot of consultation with parents of young people who have additional support needs. And we will be providing specialist hubs, 3 specialist hubs across North Lanarkshire, designed in terms of the hours, in consultation with those parents, to provide additional activities for those young people who have got additional support needs and who require support during the summer period. And then finally, just on that, there's also a more intensive programme, which is really for families where children and young people are experiencing care or other significant vulnerabilities, and that's a very targeted programme, and that's, I suppose, young people from particular groups at risk of exclusion, and so this is looked after at home, kinship care placements and so on, and there's a very intensive programme which will allow lead officers to really focus on supporting those young people at a time when perhaps there are even more risk during holiday periods of being excluded. So all of those things will continue over the summer, and as I say, we'll publicise those in the appropriate places, making sure that parents are aware of them, and the access that's available to them. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Stephen. Everything you've mentioned there seems really worthwhile, and I'm sure it's really beneficial to all the young people to have these options available, both extra support and meals and everything else. So good stuff. Can I just say, Stephen mentioned the building at Gowthrapple there. If you drive past Gowthrapple, it's a bit of a wasteland. The reason that's not progressing more quickly, you'll see they started the preparation work on the site for the new houses, but the problem is all the buildings aren't empty yet. There are one or a couple of residents in most of the buildings that are in Gowthrapple just now. Some are waiting to be rehoused, and some indeed had bought their properties, and the council is involved in CPOs for dealing with them not moving out. So that's perhaps why it's taking longer than most people expected to start clearing the site and get it ready for the building of the new houses.
Chair, I'm sorry, just on that latter point, I'm pleased to report that we're down to one resident in terms of that CPO purchase. So we've got one ongoing, one outstanding, and that I spoke to the head of housing just before the meeting. So we're down to one now.
But there's still some council tenants in other buildings, Stephen. Yeah, thanks. Dan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to come in and say about Club 365. Myself, Social Track, and a couple other community groups were right at the start of Club 365, and to much dismay, Club 365 was removed from the contract and delivery at Glencastles and with ourselves, and we were one of the very few groups that actually had young people who were high school students who were attending, and quite emotional about it because some of those young people aren't with us anymore. And there was a big feeling among those young people in Craigneuk, Wishaw Hill, and Lower Wishaw that they had been abandoned. I know that there's lots of talk about successes of Club 365, and I know there has been, but I feel that these young people's voices just aren't heard. And it may sound like I'm a guy who is just trying to get more business for his non-profit organisation. We actually run at a loss of £10,000 running Club 365. But I would be very happy to help deliver Club 365 again at the Wishaw Hill Wood Pump Track. Probably speaking for him here, but I'm quite sure Ian White at the Venny would be interested in helping out with that as well. You know, there was a lot of shock when that was removed from the Wishaw Hill Wood Pump Track. It's the reason why we have the 360 Club, which is funded by the lottery. It's because we knew the need was still there, and the lottery obviously recognised that need was there. It's not enough to recognise need, it's how you meet that need. So we knew that the delivery was working. And every chance at Berry Hill and the programmes that are running in Berry Hill are successful. But we know that what we do, which is only going to be 2 days a week during the summer holidays, isn't enough. But it's the most that we can do. And we'll try to do the best with what we can do. And I know that there's money for additional activities. Trying to tap into that and trying to say that we're available. I'm sure I'm not the only organisation and community organisation in North Lanarkshire that feels really talked down to, barriers put in place when you actually try and speak to people, reasons that make no sense at all for not doing things, when it just seems you just don't know what's happening in the background. When we know that we're being successful, that we have numbers that council youth teams don't get. Made for You and ML2 has been so successful with Club 365. They have knocked it out of the park, so have Shots GBT. And I just don't know why. I don't understand why it was ever removed from Wishaw Hill Wood Pump Track for a start, but I just feel the need that it publicly needs to be said that there's young people who wonder why it was ever taken away from the pump track. And those children, you talk about looked after and accommodated children, care experienced children. My background, social work and social care. A lot of those children that we were working with in Wishaw Hill and Craigneuk, a lot of them were like that. Were in that bracket, and you're talking at least a third of the individuals that we were working with, because it would every now and again we would have a conversation with the police, or we'd have a conversation with social worker, we'd have a conversation with a school, and those conversations with schools happen all the time. Every week there's a conversation with a school about a child that's in Craigneuk or Wishaw Hill, and it's well, maybe not every week, but every fortnight, and it's yeah. So I just probably want to say that we want to do it. We want to help out. We want to help deliver Club 365. We know it was successful, and we know it got to the kids who really needed it, and it supported the families who needed it. Again, this might be an issue that's more for the Motherwell Community Board, but I've just got to say that, you know, it affects Wishaw. It affects people came from the centre of Wishaw to Wishaw Hill Wood Pump Track to take part in that.
Yep.
Very missing. Club 365 is very missing in the middle of Wishaw. You know, when you've not got Wishaw, you know, nothing's happening at Wishaw Academy as far as I'm aware. We had children that would come from Wishaw Academy that would come down to the pump track. We had kids that would come, we still have kids regularly that come from Cambusnethan and Holtness and Humains because they come for the pump track. And a lot of them are from families in poverty, if not all of them.
Okay.
And it's, so yeah, I just wanted to make that point and
Right.
let it known.
Well, you clearly feel, Dan, that you haven't been given a reasonable explanation as to why the decision was made. Maureen, are you taking minutes?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Can we have that? Can we have that as a business arising thing for the next meeting? And can someone, Leanne or whatever, you know, identify who's going to respond to Dan on his concerns about that? Sorry, Stephen, your hand's up. Would you like to answer that?
I can't answer the question directly, but I will undertake to make sure that the service does so. And
Right, okay.
feeds back to Dan on that.
Right, can you
yeah, we'll do that.
include all the councillors in the area as well, because it is pan area for everyone. Thank you. Okay. So the community champions, Stephen's given a good update, and Dan is concerned. You can stick your hand now, Dan. Dan. Thank you. Next item on the agenda. Oh, sorry, I want to welcome Councillor Burrows. You'll already have realised that I'm doing a very poor job of replacing you, Bob. So welcome to the meeting.
Bob Burrows retired, Jim. I'm Bob Burgess.
Oh, sorry, Bob. Yeah. Bob B, we call him, and we get mixed up. I do anyway. Right. So local outcome improvement plan, agenda item 6, local priorities. Who's dealing with that, Leanne?
I'll start off and hopefully bring in other colleagues. So you probably noticed that, well, the more observant might have noticed that we've kind of reorganised the agenda for the community board meeting. And what we're trying to do from kind of this cycle and really from the next cycle is to try and make the priorities for the local outcome improvement plans really the kind of the centre of the agenda, with obviously input from communities around matters that they want to highlight. And the reason for that is because obviously we undertook some extensive engagement kind of throughout the pandemic with communities around what their priorities were, and the priorities for the Wishaw area were kind of agreed, and there's been a wee bit of work based on that engagement to start to work up some of the detail of what those priorities are starting to shape up like. There's been work to try and look at establishing in the Wishaw area some subgroups that will meet to drive those forward, and there's work with our community planning partners to really start to look at how we support and drive delivery of the local outcome improvement plans and the priorities that sit across the local outcome improvement plans. So what we're trying to do is to make the agenda made up of mainly community matters, so I'll always making sure there's an opportunity for community groups or individuals to come along and raise matters of concern or to share information or positive updates with the community board, but that the agenda from the next cycle onwards will be made up of the local outcome improvement priorities for the Wishaw area, and that all updates from community planning partners and where relevant community groups as well will be fed through the local outcome improvement plan priorities. We're just about to kind of launch with partners the kind of performance framework that sits behind that, really how we're going to track progress around the local outcome improvement plans. So we should have more kind of concrete reports that we'll be able to bring to the community board on the individual community board priorities that can articulated through the local outcome improvement plan for the area. So that was all that I was going to say, and I would probably just pass over to Gary now to see if there's anything he wants to say specifically around any of the priorities, or bring in any of our community planning partners to provide updates where relevant. We are very much, I suppose the only thing that I would say is, although we've been working on the local outcome improvement plans for the past few years in terms of the engagement and the work to kind of finalise the priorities, they were published in October. So now I think the focus is on shifting from the work around the development of the plans to bringing those plans to life and really starting to work with local community groups and organisations and across the partnership to really start to look at, okay, what are the actual actions that we need to take around these particular priorities, and some of those actions might be really focused on sharing information, like you were saying earlier, and helping people to understand the services that exist and understanding why there might be barriers for certain people to access services. And others might be much more about a particular gap for Wishaw, or I think something that we might think we want to do differently in Wishaw through engagement with the community. But the big focus is really on tackling inequalities, and also it needs to be about co-production and communities really being involved in the delivery of these plans. So that was, I said a minute ago, that was all I wanted to say. That really is all I want to say. And just to really invite any partners or Gary from my team to come in if there's any particular updates that they would want to provide. And as I say, we will have kind of a more formal kind of reporting process from the next meeting.
Okay, thanks. That I'm sure that'll become clearer as the formal reporting is introduced. But does anyone have any specific questions just now? Okay, looks like not. If we go into agenda item 7.
Sorry, Chair, I think Councillor McKendrick's got his hand
Oh,
raised.
sorry, Robert, I missed that there.
Hi, Jim. No, I was just looking for a wee update on the New Mains Play Park. If they have any updates there, I see from the notes that the finance provided's missing, and that's to be confirmed. There was an original 90k there. Another thing that I would probably want to ask is there any funding coming from the developers from the new school? Is that something that we would possibly look at, maybe to get some more play equipment into that park, especially for the likes of the disabled kids?
Who can give an update on that?
I can certainly, in terms of the specifics around the play park, I can certainly go back and have a look at that unless Gary wants to come in. In terms of the funding, there absolutely will be funding that comes from developers, and we work very closely with our colleagues to make sure that communities are involved in looking at what that funding looks like. But I don't know if Gary, if you wanted to come in and say something more specific about that project.
Sorry, I'm not 100% sure. Is this the one that's next to the community centre, the NCT building?
No, it's the play park next to the new school, Gary. We're
Right, next to the right, no problem. Okay, if you can leave that one with me, Councillor McKendrick, and I will certainly find out for you. I'll also try and check our system just now to see if there's anything live on it that I can share.
Okay, thanks very much, Gary.
Okay, not sure who was first. I'll let ladies go first. Richard, Fiona, you've got your hand up.
That's the first time Jim's ever called me a lady. Thanks, Jim. Thank you, Chair. It was just actually Councillor McKendrick kind of prompted my memory there. Is there any update on the funding that came from the development up at Waterloo, and how much was it, and what is it being used for? Because that was something we were waiting on an update for. That's kind of gone off the radar.
I will get an update on that and circulate it ASAP to the community board members. Is that okay?
Okay.
Fab, can that maybe circulated also to the community council as well, please, Leanne?
Yep.
Thank you.
Richard McInnes.
Hi, thanks, Chair. As I said earlier, I'm Richard McInnes from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. I'd just like to first of all apologise to the community board that I didn't manage to get my paper in on time to be circulated with the rest of them. I've been on an annual leave period and returned yesterday, so I managed to get in this morning. I believe Gary had said earlier on by email that he would circulate it after the meeting. So if you take the time to have a read at that, and if you want to ask me any questions or anything I've covered, then just feel free to email me. Our contact details are on the report. However, if it's okay with you, Chair, I could just run through a few of the pertinent points and give a brief update to the community board, if that's okay.
Of course, Richard, on you go.
Okay, so just to kind of outline some of the work that we've been doing in the Wishaw area. You know, deliberate secondary fires is always an issue across the whole of Lanarkshire, to be fair. But just as a brief outline of what we're doing, we're kind of working with local schools and our community action team to try and reduce these figures. And I can say that we've had a positive reduction of 20%. In our deliberate secondary fires over the same reporting period of Q4 last year. So we'll continue to work in conjunction with our partners to ensure that that downward trend continues. Some community engagement work, as you know, Motherwell Community Fire Station covers the Wishaw area, and there's been 270 engagement activities carried out by our Motherwell Fire Station crews. 175 of them are home fire safety visits, 41 post-domestic incident responses, which is where we engage with the occupiers after a domestic fire incident. And we've also conducted fire safety and water safety talks at our local schools as well. Some of our planned activities going forward, we have our summer thematic action plan, which looks at focusing on our reduction targets. namely our fire-related antisocial behaviour, outdoor fires, water safety, and fires involving refuse and rubbish. So by the time the next community board meeting sits, I could provide some figures on just kind of what we've been doing in that period. Something that may interest is it Daniel? I think it was talking about the work that his organisation do and how we can link in. We've got our Fire Reach programme up and running again. As some of you may know, it's been running a long time in North Lanarkshire, up at our facility in Coatbridge. And due to COVID, it all got stopped, and then it got refunded and rebranded by North Lanarkshire Council, and we'll now have it up and running again. We are looking for other organisations other than schools to take part during the summer months, and that may be something that may interest some of the young people that attend Daniel's organisation. So we've also adapted that Fire Reach programme this time as well to include a Junior Fire Reach programme, which will deliver to support third sector care experienced young people. Just finally, we have our strategic plan consultation period open at the moment. It's a draft strategic plan that proposes 7 outcomes and shows how these outcomes will deliver against the framework and our long-term vision between 2022 and 2025. If you'd like to have your say, you'll find a draft plan and an opportunity to share your thoughts on our Scottish Fire and Rescue Service website, and that consultation is due to close on the 10th of July. So any community board members or anybody else, members of the public, would like to have their say, then feel free to go into the website and have your views heard. Happy to take any questions on anything I've covered. As I said, the paper will be circulated in full that you can read at that point.
Dan, you were there first.
Hi there, Richard. It was just to say, first thing, are you going to be the chap who's meeting us in Holleton next week?
No, that won't be me. It'll probably be one of our community action team, or perhaps our local authority liaison officer.
Okay.
Maybe one of them. Do you know the guy's name?
I don't. It was Neil that got the email.
Right, okay.
Well, I mentioned the Fire Reach project with them.
Yes, absolutely. I've actually sent you a chat message, Daniel, just to yourself, just asking you to link in with me, and I can go through it with you if you like. My contact details are on that chat as well.
Great, and I'll let you know when we're at the Wishaw Hillwood pump track during the summer holidays as well. So we're there all the way to August. So I'll let you know.
Fantastic, that'd be great. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I think Gary, could you want to come in, or is your hand up by mistake?
Oh, yes, Chair. I've got a few updates to provide tonight.
Right. Is it in relation to the fire service update?
No, it's in regard to the LOIPs.
All right. Okay. Right. Let's finish with Richard's update first, and don't let me go in without bringing you in. I must have missed you. Bob's next. Definitely Bob Burgess.
I think you may be on mute, Bob.
I thought maybe we put that waving hand off. I was into the mic as well. Richard, we're getting a few more problems down at Carmarthen's. I hope you're aware of that because we had a wee bit of a problem with the size of the unit that was sent down. If we get smaller units that can go along that track to the orchard, do you know where I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with it, Bob. No, sorry. When you say units, do you mean vehicles?
Yeah. They went down with one of the big machines, obviously, and they couldn't get to it's a dirt track, and they couldn't get along to where they're gathering just maybe 20-30 people, and they're sitting lighting fires and whatnot. But they set this building on fire just next to the orchard. So basically, it was just to check that did we have a smaller unit, and were you aware of it?
We don't have a smaller unit, unfortunately, at this point. but I am aware that there is issues in that area, and I know that some of my colleagues have attended fires in that area in the past. Basically, what happens is when we attend these incidents, we'll come back, discuss, alternative access points, things, and if we do have an issue in a particular area that's hard to access, then we'll look at, as I said, alternative ways of doing it, and we'll share that information with the fire service colleagues in other areas, just in case it's them that's covering. But I'll take your point on board, Bob, and I'll discuss it with my colleagues and see if I can find out anything.
Lovely, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Ian from the Venny.
Yeah, Richard, I know you're talking to Dan there as well. Venny's obviously down at Pump Track, and I'm putting together a summer programme just now. We're looking at having a community day as well, and it was mentioned trying to get the fire service down for that. So I was wondering if you'd be all right to share your details with me as well.
Absolutely. I'll put my details in the chat bar for everyone to view. Just initially, I think I'd done it privately to Daniel, but I'll put it in for everyone to view. And if there is any engagement opportunities, particularly over the summer months when the schools are closed and we find it difficult to have that engagement, then that would be really, really beneficial hopefully for both of our organisations. So I'll set my details in there. If you can get contact with me, then I will respond and we'll see what we can do.
And Dan, I'll catch up with you as well, man.
Okay. Richard, question from me. You mentioned you were back visiting schools. I think that's a particularly beneficial way of trying to deal with the issues. I don't know if you agree with that, but do you think you'll have a fuller programme available after the summer holidays to get into the schools and discuss some of the problems that are arising?
Well, to be honest with you, Chair, we've been doing it now since probably the turn of the year. We managed to. I used to be the local authority liaison officer, and I've subsequently now moved out of that role into another role. And part of my role was for school engagement and dealing with some of the guys for the council to try and get in. I managed to get permissions set because of the historic issues we have in the spring months in relation to wildfires and in the kind of April, May kind of months. So instead of being reactive, we were looking at a proactive approach to it this year to try and, so as soon as February hit, is let's get into schools now, let's not wait until the problems are here. So everything was pre-Easter. So we managed to get it in pre-Easter holidays, and we've noted a remarkable difference in reduction of these types of incidents. I think last year, off the top of my head, we had something like 600 incidents across the whole of North Lanarkshire in April alone in relation to deliberate secondary fires, and this year it was down to like 300, so we almost halved it. So we're putting that down to probably not solely, but a large part of that is down to the engagement work that we've done along with our partner organisations as well. And I've got nothing but praise for the schools, because they were dealing with the whole fallout, the whole kind of fallout off the back of COVID and everything that was happening, and trying to catch up their curriculums as well. But they recognised that the engagement work that we were doing did benefit the wider community, and they were very kind of helpful to try and get that up and running and get it established. So I think, yeah, it showcased partnership working, at its finest, shall we say, and it's been really, really good and really, really positive. This year going forward again into as I said, the summer thematic action plan. As you all know, with a few water fatalities last year, so we've got a big drive on just now about our water safety strategies and trying to link in with local partner organisations to try and bring that, raise awareness, shall we say. We're also doing it in social media as well, the Float to Live campaigns and things like that we're trying to get the message out there, and we're hopeful that this year that message will get through and we don't have a repeat of the kind of tragic instances we had last year.
Okay, thanks. Ian Johnson, is your hand? You got another question?
This is the climate scientist coming out in me, but I was curious with the kind of increased number of like people setting fires and stuff like that. Is there any conscious effort to kind of highlight that we are kind of as susceptible as places like California and Australia, etc., as far as these becoming much larger incidents with kind of the droughts that we'll kind of face during the summer?
What you mean in relation to wildfires?
Yeah, I think it could be a useful thing to kind of get into the common understanding.
I don't think we're at the level of risk to the types of incidents, to be honest with you. They're extreme. However, we do have an issue with it. There's no doubt, there's no getting away with that, and certainly in areas like Participatory and things like that, in Shotts Community Board area, it's really quite. It's really quite. You know, it takes up a lot of everyone's time. It obviously puts the community at risk, and you know, and obviously the wildlife and things like that as well. So it does have a massive impact. But I wouldn't say that we're at the stage now where we have to put contingencies in place to the kind of scale that you would in Australia and in California and things like that. I hope that answers your question. I wasn't quite sure, to be honest with you.
No, that's fair. It was just I guess an idea that I was curious about.
Yeah.
We are always looking at different ways of doing it, you know, and we're trying to come up with ideas of how we're going to tackle these fires head on and trying to prevent them from escalating into 3 and 4 days of us sitting there babysitting a grass fire or peat fire, really, that's not going anywhere, but it's just still burning away and smouldering away and affecting the environment. So we're always looking at ways to improve that our response. And I don't know if any of you attended the Shotts Community Board meeting a couple of weeks ago. My colleague Craig Campbell discussed the new facility we've got up at Shotts, a new vehicle. It's basically it's a vehicle that we have. It's going to be stationed at Shotts Community Fire Station, and it will have like extra hose and and knapsacks and beaters and things like that. And we can actually run hose out for over 100 metres now, so it allows us to actually get water onto the fires rather than going out and trying to just kind of stamp them out effectively with beaters and knapsacks. But it's all about just kind of looking at new improved ways of dealing with it and trying to prevent it escalating into larger scale incidents, and that's what we're looking at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, Ian. Bob, do you want to come back in? Sorry. Okay, Bob, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Jim, thank you. I'm sorry, Richard. It just came to mind that when we've got that situation in Kirkbarns over the last year, we've lost, I think it's 3 really mature trees. Is there any way you can add that into your school stuff when you're there? You know, the burning trees that are like 40, 50 years old, and they're gone. You know, once you lose them, you lose them. If you could maybe get that across.
100%, Councillor Burgess. Yeah, I would. I would say we're always talking. We kind of class that as a deliberate secondary fire issue, and that is one of our key messages that we deliver at these school events. I mentioned water safety, but deliberate secondary fires, antisocial behaviour, and the wider impact that has is always high in our agenda when we're discussing these at the local schools. But specifically, mature trees and things like that is probably something that isn't in there, and it maybe just. You've raised a good point, that we could add that in. There's no harm in adding it in, and it gives us that a wee bit more to focus on when we're at the schools.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Any other general items on the local development plan? Next item is a specific update on the community Christmas trees. And who's doing that?
Well, that's myself, councillor. So I think we kind of jumped on from the local outcome improvement plans and then started to move into the LDP, which is absolutely fine, because there is a fair bit of crossover,
So
hopefully.
I'll go back to Gary. I either missed him or he didn't get his hand up quick enough. We'll have a vote on that later. Right, carry on.
Okay, so the local development programme, as you know, it's a standard report that we bring to the community board meetings. We don't tend to go into the kind of body of the report in any great detail. It talks about the background and the process and the criteria for local development programme funding. The update that we provide is just in relation to any kind of exceptions to the appendices, so anything that's been added or anything that has been that's changed in any way. So generally speaking, for the Wishaw area, we currently at this point in time don't have on the report the appendix to the report, provides an update in terms of proposed projects and projects that have been approved, and it provides an update on where we're at with those. You'll see from the appendix, the first kind of tables are empty at this point in time, but those projects for New Mains should absolutely be reflected in there, so I'll get that sorted. I don't know what's happened there and why that they're not on the report, but I'll make sure that that's updated for you. In terms of the projects, I think we've had a fair bit of discussion tonight around individual local development programme projects. We are still kind of getting to know some of the terminology that's used, because some projects, we've called them something and sometimes local people maybe refer to them as something else, and it's like maybe a street nearby, etc. So if there's any updates that we've missed, or you think you want any further information on, please feel free to let us know. You'll see in there we're currently there's an outline within Appendix 2 of the budget across North Lanarkshire. The budgets for the local development programme are split across the 9 community board areas based on both the population, and also the 15% of the allocation is based on deprivation statistics through the SIMD data. We're currently in year 2, so the budget for year 2 for the Wishaw area is £151,605. So you'll see throughout the appendix within the report, you will see where it says year 2 project priority. Those are projects that are either currently being delivered, or that we're doing the kind of preparatory and feasibility work to attempt to be able to try and deliver them within year 2. You'll see that there are some projects that are kind of sitting within future years, so for example year 45, and again that's just because we've not got to the stage of that prioritisation, or we don't think that we're going to be able to prioritise it within the budget for this year. So I can certainly share information as requested earlier on the local development programme process and how groups can put forward ideas, and we would absolutely encourage local groups to put forward ideas. You can contact our team in the first instance. You can send an email to the Community Matters mailbox, which I put in the chat bar earlier, to request a proposal form. The proposal form asks for kind of more basic information around the project, but enough information that allows us to do kind of early work to look into feasibility and the kind of possibility of proceeding. We would then do a bit of work with the community group that had submitted the proposal, just to kind of work up the detail a wee bit further. So really that was all. There's not any projects I don't think that we've not already picked up on tonight, but if anybody's got any specific questions that they would want to ask, I'll do my best to answer or come back with an answer over the next few days. And sorry, do you want me to just move on to the Christmas trees, or do you want me to just take questions first and then move on to the Christmas trees?
Sorry, any questions on Leanne's updates? No, right, Christmas trees.
So understand that last year there was a request through the community board for assistance for community groups to be able to purchase and install Christmas trees. I think the agreement was that we could potentially fund 50% of the cost if the group was able to fundraise for the other 50%. I suppose we've had a request, I think, from one group so far to see if we're able to do the same this year for 2022, and really we were wanting just to raise it tonight at the community board to ask if the community board would still want to support that idea. But what we would be encouraging is that community groups get any requests in ASAP, like over the next kind of few months anyway, because what happened last year was it started to get a lot later on in the year, and in order to be able to support this, the council's one of the teams within the council, an internal team at the council, needs to be involved in the kind of procurement of the Christmas trees and the installation, etc., from a health and safety perspective. So they really need to programme in that work internally just to be able to support any work. So we really need to know as early as possible, so that we're able to kind of start to look at what support is going to be required from the council's perspective. So firstly, the question is that something the community board would want to support and offer out to community groups again this year? And secondly, just a plea that if community groups are wanting to access that support, and it's approved tonight, we would probably need to start to engage with groups around submitting ideas as quickly as possible, and not kind of leaving it to the last minute or, you know, really close to Christmas.
I had some questions about this last year, and there's no set price for doing this. It depends on where a tree can be fitted and whether there's existing electricity connections and things like that. So there's not a set price. So the quicker people get the request done, if they want this, the local people, you know, it gives the council more time to assess it and come up with a cost. Then they can make a final decision if there's enough local funds to cover the final costs. Bob, you were hand up next.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, Councillor Hume and I have had this already, and it's not just as easy and cut and dried as it looks, because there's a whole range of problems on ground, electricity, procurement, and it's a big expense that I don't think they're going to sort of wash if we don't take it on board. And I don't think we could take most of the trees on board if they've no feed to electricity or whatever. And there's a lot of problems within it. So I think either we make up something and send it out to them, this is what you need from insurance right through, and give them some kind of idea of what they've got to do to put a tree together. Because it's not just a matter of putting it up and leaving it and maybe somebody running a set of lights for their house or something like that. It's just not the way it can be done.
Yeah, that's fair enough, Bob. Leanne, can you make a point of setting up something to pass this information on to the community groups who might be interested, to get the request in as soon as possible, and give them an update on the position and funding and things like that?
Yeah, we'll have a discussion with our colleagues in environmental assets in terms of what information they would need. But I suppose that for tonight, just so that we can take that forward, are we agreeing in principle that if we get further information that the community board are wanting to, or something they would want to support for this year?
Well, Robert, do you want to talk to your suggestion that we keep it going, or how beneficial it is?
Yes, Jim, I would prefer to keep it going, because there is community groups out there who struggle to get the full cost of the Christmas trees. So I would certainly like to keep it moving. Yeah.
So whether you want to come in on that, or is it another point?
No, I was just saying, I concur with what you've said so far. I know that it's Brighter Villages and Overton Community Council, we were chatting about it as well. They have their own lights, and it's obviously a case of like the funding or how much it would cost to fund these lights to go up, and as well as the tree. This might be my ignorance as well, but can we look at sustainability of like planting trees so as we don't have this ongoing expense every year? You know, I don't know how easy that would be. Maybe be a one-off cost, but long term we could have them there every year.
Sounds like a good idea. Could we take that as an action, Leanne, for that to be assessed?
Yeah, we certainly can, and I think we can pull together a very simple pro forma, maybe just to send to the councillors in the first instance to see, what their awareness is of kind of likely demand, so that we can start to look and what that's likely to look like, and what types of things groups will be looking for, just so that we can start to have that discussion around what's needed, and the kind of potential costs. But the sustainability ones obviously absolutely needs to be built in. So we'll see what we can pull together and circulate something. Obviously there's not an infinite amount of money, so we just need to assess what type of demand will there be and what groups are likely to be able to kind of raise additional funds to sort of match that.
Yeah, absolutely. Money's always tight, and money that goes to this isn't available for other things. That's why it's important to get it under control. Bob's first, and then Fiona. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks again, Jim. Sorry for coming in twice again. Yeah, Leanne, I think getting this off the ground is reasonably, hopefully available. But the next thing and the next question is going to be, what about our street lights? So where we go with that one, I don't know, because I believe that Netherton, the lights that belong to them, that were in Netherton. So we were getting asked where they were stored and can we get them out, and you know, so there's a whole load and ramifications required on streetlights if they ask the question, because that will be the threatened question.
Yeah, probably right, Bob. Fiona?
Yeah, I think that's what Leanne's saying. We need a feasibility there to see obviously what the local priorities are, to see what they want, when we actually see all the costs of the things. It was just to follow on just from what we said about the sustainability. We're looking at lighting up the parks and things like that. Is there options out there for solar lighting or something else, low cost lighting that can be sourced or anything like that? Just putting it out there, maybe it's worth to looking at.
Okay. Another item to record and investigate, Leanne, yeah. Stuart's put something in the chat. Do we have a cost range? 1k, 2k or more? I believe some of the costs up to 6,000 or 7,000. Stuart, can anyone confirm or deny that?
I don't have a list of exact costs in front of me, but I believe that it can be fairly expensive, and that hence why we wouldn't be able to fund probably the full amount. It would be based on we would be able to provide a proportion of the funding potentially, depending on the demand, and I think it would need to be looked at once we have an idea of some of the demand.
Anything else, Stuart, or is that okay? Thanks. Robert actually put that proposal in that we keep the scheme going. Is anyone otherwise minded? Sounds like not. So can you take a note of that then? And as far as the community board's concerned, we would like the scheme to be continued.
Okay.
Thanks. Right, I think if there's nothing else, we'll go back to Gary, who's desperate to come in to discuss the light stuff.
Thanks, Chair, for giving me the chance to come back in. You'll see on the chat bar that Leanne has posted a list of the priorities for the Wishaw area. I don't propose to go through each of these tonight, but I would like to provide a little bit of updates on some of them, starting with the community engagement priority. Folk will be aware that the first subgroup meeting for community engagement happened earlier in March. And at that meeting, it was agreed that there would be also a focus for the subgroup to look at and to manage the participatory budgeting process for the Wishaw Community Board area going forward. I've received some updates from my colleague Maureen Simpson that I just wanted to pass over to you tonight. Firstly, the first meeting of the subgroup was very successful. I had a good turnout at it, and the very productive conversations and early discussions about what the subgroup would do going forward, which would include mapping out and recording all the various engagement activities that have been happening in recent times. Over and above that, as I've said to you, there has been a general agreement that the working group, the subgroup, sorry, will be involved in running the participatory budgeting process. So at the meeting on the 15th of March, there was an opportunity for the members to really get a chance to understand participatory budgeting, what it was about, and the processes that would likely be involved within that, as well as some discussions about the involvement for the Murdiston Health and Wellbeing Participatory Budgeting Project. So some of the members of the subgroup may be here tonight, so feel free to add in anything afterwards. So in terms of one of the key bits of information, it was to make you aware that in terms of the pilot PB project that the subgroup will be involved in, it's been funded through the Health and Social Care Locality Consortium. I think there's £2,000 or thereabouts that have been allocated for the process. However, it's not been downloaded into our accounts yet, so we aren't able to go ahead at this time, and we'll endeavour to keep you updated and, as we go through the process. In terms of the working group, subgroup, sorry, we'll have a new colleague starting for the community partnership team. Her name's Vicky Peacock. Vicky's actually going to be starting next Wednesday, and will be covering the Wishaw area full time for our team. And that will be one of the first tasks that Vicky will pick up when she comes into the area, along with dealing with some of the LDP work that was mentioned here tonight. One of the next things on the list was community safety, and thanks already for our Fire Scotland colleagues for giving a very comprehensive update around that. It was just to mention that we also, you'll be aware from the last meeting, that the Moto X partnership with Police Scotland has also been approved in principle, and there's work behind the scenes to get that procured for the Police Scotland work going forward. Also under community safety, we've received some information from Margot Young from Cleland Community Council, who's on the call tonight. And if it's all right, Chair, I would propose to bring Margot in now, who would like to discuss some of traffic and speeding issues and speed calming measures that might be needed for the village of Cleland.
Of course.
Thank you very much, Chair. I raised this with Ross previously, and if you are aware, there's traffic calming proposed for Bellside Road, but we're looking to have traffic calming throughout the village. There have already been
Sorry, Margot, you're not very clear for me. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Gary, I need to take it up because he knows the issue.
Right.
Chair, are you happy for me to come back in?
Well, you're on twice, Margot. That may be what it is. Yeah, no, it's okay. Just check everyone's on mute. That may be causing the echo. But why don't you try going on, Margot, and then we'll bring Richard in if you're still not clear.
No, I'm sorry, it's mine, and I don't know how to fix it.
Ah, right, okay. Right. Gary, you coming back in then?
That's fine, Chair. So Margot has sent me over some emails. So basically, as you know, for a number of years, there's been some concerns about the road traffic in and around Cleland, and there's been some concentrated activity for a number of roads within the area, including Bigger Road and Omaha Road. The situation is that the Community Council and the residents generally feel that there needs to be a wider look at the road traffic issue and about considering road traffic calming measures for the village. It's been heightened in recent times because of the ongoing work around the Persimmon site at the old Cleland Hospital. So Margot is very keen for, I suppose, a dialogue with relevant council officers to look at how this can be addressed going forward and how we can look at solutions going forward. So just to keep you updated, I have outreach to my colleagues at planning in terms of the Cleland Hospital development. There's some conditions that have already been built into the planning conditions there, and I've also been in touch with the roads colleagues to find out if we can maybe have a meeting off table to look at this further. But I haven't received any feedback from them yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that cover that enough, Margot? Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Right. Okay. Any other points from Gary about the light stuff?
Thanks, Chair. So basically, there's some other priorities that have been listed there. So we've got mental health and well-being. We have got environment, which we have touched on. I suppose we have got our colleagues here from NHS Lanarkshire tonight. I don't know if Mark, if you want to come in and with any updates, and perhaps Richard Bolton, who was involved in an environmental cleanup down in Gitfrapple. It might be quite nice to hear about some of that work as well.
You guys like to make a contribution?
Yeah, I'm happy to give a quick
Sorry,
update on the
sorry, Richard, you go.
Right, who's going first? Richard?
I'm happy to give a quick...
Richard, I've decided you're going first. Sorry, Mark.
Happy to give a quick update on the community cleanup we did in Gitfrapple. We managed to clear up quite a big area around Heathfield, and it allowed us to engage with quite a few local tenants and look at some of the areas that we wanted to tackle. From that, we've penciled in a whole programme of activities over the next summer and into the autumn, looking at how we can improve some of the areas, but looking at some of the challenges and trying to be a bit proactive. So hopefully by the next board meeting, I'll be able to give you an update of what we're doing, show some before and after pictures, and try and encourage a few more people to attend.
Yeah, great work you guys do. Well done for giving up your own time to assist in clearing up those areas. Thank you. Mark, do you want to come in now and respond to Gary?
Yeah, it's a brief update on the mental health. We've recently had the Mental Health Awareness Month and the Scottish Mental Health Arts Festival across the whole of Lanarkshire, but quite a lot of work has been done in the North Lanarkshire area with Bazooka Arts. We had a lot of engagement around a lot of areas within North Lanarkshire, not just Wishaw, but including Shotts and Motherwell. A lot of people engaged in that, so they're going to supply us with a report that'll be circulating in the next few days. Actually, so I'll get that out to everybody. That and I think now what was the other thing? And yeah, in GBT and Shotts had their Scottish Mental Health Arts Festival contribution as well. That was open to the wider area as well, and not just resident Shotts, and that was really successful as well.
Thanks, guys. Gary, is there anything else?
That's all for just now, Councillor.
Thank you. That brings us on to item 8, petitions. Who's giving an update on that?
There are no petitions. That's just a standing agenda item.
Right. Okay. That was quite good. Ian, are you doing the community concordate for Van El?
That's correct, yes.
Right. Okay. On you go.
I'll try and keep this short and sweet. Okay, so in regards to the community concordate, I think the name itself can kind of confuse people, so I'll try and put it in layman terms. Essentially, it's an agreement between North Lanarkshire stakeholders, which sets out to have shared values, an approach in empowering local residents, investing in local communities, and supporting well-being, equality, and sustainability generally. To this end, what we want to do is pin down who are the stakeholders. So obviously local residents, we've got the community and voluntary sector themselves, public bodies serving North Lanarkshire such as the council, the NHS, the police and Scottish Fire and Rescue, as well as businesses serving North Lanarkshire. To achieve this, what we are looking to do is gather as much information as possible through our survey, which I'll leave in the chat just there. You've got another 3 days to finish that off, so I would encourage anybody that hasn't already done so to finish up. We want to get as many voices and opinions as possible, and essentially this will shape all work going on within North Lanarkshire, as ideally we'll kind of come together and agree how we can best work together, can have an audit of what resources we have, how we can better collaborate together. And then in late September, early October, what we'll also be doing is hosting workshops. So what we'll be doing is breaking them down into 4 different clusters, as well as tackling a few thematic topics, specifically unpaid carers, Black, Asian, minority and ethnic groups, LGBT groups, people with disability and long-term conditions, older adults, people from different community groups, people on low income and young people generally. So if there's any other organisations that might want to get involved with this, would like to have their ideas represented, you can reach out at any point. I'll leave my email again at the end of this. Are there any questions? I know that was probably a lot of information I just shotgunned at you.
Looks like you've got off with more questions then, Ian.
Keep it nice.
There's a couple of items on the chat line. Mark and Fiona have mentioned. Do you want to check them out? Okay. Not specifically for you, Ian, just general points. Okay. We're getting there then. Item 10 is any other competent business. Anything that? Sorry, Gary. Did you want to come back in on something?
Just any other business, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, we're at that. If you want to come in first.
That's great. Thank you. I've been in. One of my colleagues from NHS Lanarkshire has been in touch. As you are aware, we've had representation from the Wishaw Community Board on the Monklands forum, which is the engagement forum that look at the engagement activity around the new Monklands Hospital development. It's my understanding that John Kellehan, who was involved, has now rescinded his role due to the WMF forum coming to an end. And it was just to put out if there's anyone from the board that would like to take John's place and to be the representative on the Monklands Engagement Forum. If you could drop me an email, that would be very good. That's all, Chair.
Thanks. If anyone's remotely interested in that, I'm sure Gary will give them any of the information needed about time commitments and you know, the detailed aspects of the discussions. Stephen.
Chair, just an update from the partnership board. There's going to be a series of engagement events being organised for community boards during this year and next. And these will be around significant strategic developments across the community planning partnership. So, for examples, will include the development of the new local policing plan, the health and social care strategic commissioning plan for 2023 to 2026. There'll be a separate briefing provided to community board members, and an indicative timetable of events will be circulated. And the first event is going to be on the connectivity framework. So that's the new connectivity framework across North Lanarkshire, and that date will be circulated in due course, but is liable to be towards the end of this month. So it's just to give members of the board an update on that. And as I say, there'll be further details of those briefing sessions, which will be separate to the board meetings, but will be circulated to members in due course.
Thanks, Stephen. I don't know what other people feel, but it's quite overwhelming, the amount of involvement and information and all this stuff. So I would request that officers over communicate. If you could take the time to do that and make sure people like me who don't fully understand things get as much information as possible. There's a request for on behalf of myself and the group. Any other AOCB items? No, right. Oh, sorry,
Chair, Jane Wood's got her hand up.
Jane, yeah. Sorry, Jane.
That's all right. I thought I'd take this moment to give a wee quick update of some of the things that's happening in NCT.
Yeah.
Kind of all systems go now after opening back up from COVID. So we had our first pilot screening of a community cinema last week. Obviously with, you know, the kind of closest cinema being, I don't even know, I don't even think there is one in Wishaw. I think it's East Kilbride and things like that. So we're kind of we're hoping to do a monthly small scale community cinema within the function hall. So we've been through all the licensing ramifications for that. So we're good to go. We did a pilot screening for that. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that on a regular basis. We've got our Flow and Go period poverty underway as well. Dan, if you know of any sort of adult keen bike cyclers that are interested in volunteering, because we're doing it. We've got bikes, we've got both pedal bikes and electric bikes, so we're looking for some volunteers to get trained up on to help us distribute that as well. Digital support groups just started as well, so it's a kind of a wee flexible digital support group we've got running. Post-COVID social group as well for anybody that's struggling socially. Where I spoke to Karen, I know she's already gone, but I spoke to Karen from Community Council. We're hoping to go into partnership with each other to raise funds for a community defib that would be placed outside the centre. I think the only one, from what I've looked at, the only one that's in New Mains is the one that's in the actual doctor's surgery and the health centre, which is not accessible when they're closed. So we're hoping that we can kind of, once we're up, once we know exactly what we're doing, we'll start raising funds to get something like that off the ground. And that's us. Yeah, that's just about it. Thank you.
Thanks. How close would you say you were to being back to completely to normal after the COVID stuff impacted everything?
99%. We've got all our
right.
99% of all our groups are back, if not more groups. But there's some groups that were just they just lost their confidence in general about coming back. But we're as close to getting there as I think we would ever get.
That's good to hear. Thanks. Bob, you want to come in?
Yeah, sure, Jim. It's just for Jane. Jane, if you're raising funds, the Heart Foundation will look at funding you as long as it's going outside. And I think you said you were putting it outside, so yeah. They will look at it if you're putting it outside.
Brilliant, thank you.
Good to hear. Thanks, Bob. Anyone else get any topics? Looks like not, and it looks like we'll be just about finishing on time. So the final thing is the date of the next meeting. There were some issues about Tuesdays, but I noticed that the proposed next meeting is Wednesday, the 31st of August. Yeah, is that okay? So that's, if you want to, we'll be fully notified about that in the coming weeks. But if you want to pencil that in your diary, that's the projected date just now. Any final comments from anyone then? Good. Well, we're finishing before 8:30. You might ask me back then. You never know. Anyway, really, thanks very much for everyone's attendance and contribution. It's sometimes not easy to find time to spend on these issues, but it's really worthwhile when people do, and the more people involved, the better. So thanks very much for attending and your contributions.
Well done, as Chair.
Well, thank the Chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Not necessary. It's quite all right. Okay, bye everyone.